Hi everyone, a very warm welcome to our next pre-recorded lesson for Year 4. This Year 4 video will go through some more verbal reasoning tasks with you. It is week 3, this is block 5, and my name is Chris Pearce. I'm looking forward to guiding you through this lesson. Hopefully you'll also be able to join us for our live sessions, but if you are unable to, then certainly this is the video for you. You can pause it any time, you can watch it back, and this is the advantage of a pre-recorded lesson, and hopefully you are ready to go. Okay, shall we start? So this is how it will look. So if you haven't watched a video with us before, I'm in the bottom right hand corner and I'm going to guide you through these slides. I'll tell you what you need, all the books and things, so don't worry, we'll make sure you've got everything. The other advantage of a pre-recorded lesson, of course, is that you can pause it. If you want to pause it, have a go at the task yourself, and then you can watch it back and obviously see what the answers were and see the strategies and techniques that we need to use. So let's just talk about the objectives that we're going to cover off. We are going to complete a spelling test to start with. We're going to be looking at week 2's words and we're going to be focusing on some synonyms together. We're hopefully going to develop your understanding of more verbal reasoning question types, specifically codes. We're going to be looking at codes and we will talk about how to answer these code related questions, and a lot of it will be about using the alphabet correctly and hopefully learning lots of things that maybe you didn't know before. So we're going to start with a spelling test. What we'd ask you to do, please, is have out your spelling book. If you haven't got a spelling book, a jotter book is absolutely fine. And what you can do is just write these words down as I call them out. I will read them out twice, so don't worry if you miss it the first time, and I'll try and put it into a bit of context as well. So, number 1, would like you to write the word develop. Develop. Synonym for that word is expand. Expand. If you develop something, you expand it, you make it better. Third word is to write the word immense. Immense. We should all know what the word immense means. It's another word for large or big or mammoth. So immense. Think about that word. It can be a little bit tricky. Next word, which means the same as immense, is sizable. When something is sizable, it's very big. Number 5, would like you to write the word meadow down. Meadow. So meadow is like another word for a field. Cows or sheep might be in a meadow. And a synonym for the word meadow is pasture. Pasture. You might have heard of putting the cows out to pasture. Pasture, putting them out in the field. Pasture. Next word is scrap. Scrap. Having a small piece, a scrap. And the synonym for that word is fragment. Write the word fragment. And 2 more words left. Next word we'd like you to write down is furtive. 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 And a synonym for furtive is sly. Very short word, but hopefully you can write down the word sly. So let's have a little look at how you spell these. You can be checking these now. Okay. Just before I do reveal them though, I will read them down once more, just in case you did miss any. 1 is develop. 2 was expand, 3 was immense, 4 was sizable, 5 was meadow, 6 was pasture, 7 was scrap, 8 was fragment, 9 was furtive, and then 10th one was sly. Let's have a look down, see how you managed to get on. So those are all the words. And what you can do in your spelling book, or you can get your parents to do this for you, they can go down and they can check it, see how you got on, so you can hopefully give it a nice tick. And then what you can do underneath is you can just give us a score out of 10. So in your books you can just write down score out of 10. Well done if you managed to get that right. I know the red word that you had was probably the most challenging, so hopefully you managed to know what furtive meant. Okay, let's move now into our books. And the book that you're going to need is the Rapid Reasoning Test, the 8 to 9 Schofield and Sims 11 plus verbal reasoning book. It's always wise to have a pencil as well. Don't please write in pen in your books, always better to write in pencil. And if it's got a rubber on the end, brilliant, and you can rub out any mistakes that you make or change anything if you need to. It's always a good idea to have a jotter book as well if you need to jot down any techniques, and even certainly with today, anything that you weren't quite sure about and you need to know the steps that we take, you can write those steps down. There is a pause button here, and this will allow you just to pause the video and make sure you've got everything ready, because you will need this book, pencil, and it's a good idea to have a jotter for the exercises we're going to be doing. Okay, let's move on. What we're going to be focusing on is letter sequencing, letter codes, make a new word, and match the codes. So we've got 4 types of questions we're going to be looking at. Where do you need to be in your books? Well, this indicates in the corner here in the top right hand corner, you need to be on page 12, and we're doing section 1, test 9, and it's still in the Schofield and Sims book. So we're going to actually start with something called letter sequencing. I'm just going to go through some tips first of all in terms of how do we approach letter sequencing. Firstly, you should write down the alphabet if it's not provided for you. On this page it is, it's there for you, but if you haven't got one, you should write it out, and always write it out in capital letters on one continuous line. I'm sure you all know your alphabet, but make sure you write down all 26 letters. There's an example of the alphabet written out for you, and as you can see down the middle there's actually a line, and we'll talk to you a little bit more about what that line means in a moment. But certainly writing your alphabet out really clearly can be important, particularly if the one that you're using starts to get a little bit messy and untidy. You need to write your alphabet out again. Make sure you familiarise yourself with the alphabet. You might say, oh, I know my alphabet really well, but do you know what happens, for example, if I got to G and I jumped 5 letters, what letter would I land on? So you really need to know the alphabet really well. And you also need to know what happens, for example, when I get to Z if I'm counting on the alphabet. Well, we have to see the alphabet as one continuation. So actually when I get to Z, I actually go back to the beginning of the alphabet again and go A, B, C, D and E. So it is one continuation. The other important thing is when I get to A, I actually go back to Z again. So I tend to think of the alphabet more as one continuous loop. The other thing to think about is how you jump from one letter to another and how many jumps there are. So if, for example, we were going from A and we had to jump to E, how many jumps is that? Well, let's see if we can show you. So the way I do it is I'm not counting the letters in between A and E, because that would be 3. I'm actually counting the jumps. So let's see how many jumps there are. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's 4 jumps between A to E. Now the way I would write this is plus 4. And the reason I put the plus in front is because it's actually going forwards. If it was going backwards from E to A, then of course I would put minus 4. But it's really important we know which way on the alphabet we're actually going. Now, as we said at the beginning, there is a mirrored line going down between M and N. And it's really important that you also know your mirrored letters. And if I was to fold the alphabet, so if I was to fold the A round to the Z, we would say that they are mirrored. And there are 13 mirrored pairs right up to M and N. So A and Z, B and Y, C and X, D and W, E and V, F and U, G and T, H and S, I and R, J and P, K and J and Q, K and P, L and O, and M and N. So they are all your mirrored pairs. And it's really important you learn your mirrored alphabet. So for example, if I said I, what was the mirror of I? Well, it was R. If I said the mirror of L, then it would be O. If it was the mirror of H, it would be S. And I would ask you to learn your mirrored alphabet. I think that's really important. Okay, let's have a little look at the first set of questions. So, The way we're going to work these out is these are called double letter series or letter sequencing. We've got to find the next pair in the sequence, and we've got to use the alphabet to help us. Write your answer on the line. So let's perhaps have a little look at this example. We've got AD to BE to CF to DG to EH, and we've got to work out the next two letters. Now, the way we do these is we go from the first letter of each pair. So we're going to go from A to B to C to D to E. So we're going to start with the first letter. And the most important thing here is when we're counting from the first letter, we establish what the pattern is. And this one's quite an easy one because you've probably already seen these are consecutive. These are next to each other. So it goes A, B, C, D, E. What comes next? Of course, it's F. The next thing we do once we've done the first letter is we then start looking at the second letter. And this goes D, E, F, G, H. And again, it's consecutive. So if we get D, and we go all the way up to H, we've got to think about, well, what comes next? And of course, it's I. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's going all the way along. And then we're going to need the next one after H, which of course is I. So it's +1, +1. Now you've got 3 that you can have a go at. What we would certainly recommend is that you pause the video, have a go at those 3 questions, see if you can use the same technique that we used up here. So for question 1, I'm just going to reveal to you what those answers are now. So the first one is B, V. And it went, let's do the first letter together, X, Y, Z, A. So X, Y, Z, and you may remember we talked earlier, when you get to Z, of course, you need to carry on the alphabet. So we're actually going to A next, okay? And then we need the next letter after that, which of course is B. So the first letter is B. Let's have a look at the second letter, Z, Y, X, W. Let's see what's happening there. So we go Z to Y. This time we're going backwards on the alphabet. Z, Y to X to W. And we need the next letter backwards, and that of course is V. So the answer is BV. Just so you know what the next answers are for 2 and 3, let's just write those down for you. So we've got YC, and that was -1, and then we have the same letter repeated, so it's C on the second letter, and then we've got E, and then we've got J. And that actually was +2 on each one. So on the first letter it was +2, and then on the second letter it was also +2. Well done if you managed to get those 3 correct. Just a little reminder about the technique down here. Count between the first letters on each pair in your question. This will tell you how to find the first letter of your answer. Now count between the second letters of each pair in your question. This will tell you how to find the second letter of your answer. So that's obviously really, really important that you do that. Well done. Now, let's move on now to our next set of questions. And these are called letter analogies. Sometimes they're called different things, so we'll just check they're called letter codes in here. Sometimes we call them letter analogies. And it's another thing where we have to use the alphabet to help us. So let's see how we work these ones out. Let's look at the example first of all. Well, we've got FP is to JT as AA is to, and we have to work out the next 2 letters. But we're going to use this first pair to see what happens. So we're going to go from F, and we're actually going to go to J, because we're going to do the first letter of each pair. Very similar to how we did the letter sequence questions. So F to J, what happens there? Let's see if we can work out the count. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's +4. Therefore, if we're going from A and we +4, 1, 2, 3, 4, we get E. So the first letter is E. Now we're going to do the second letter. Let's do this in a slightly different colour. We're going to go P to T and see what that jump is. So again, I'm going to find P on my alphabet. Here's P. and we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, it's also plus 4. So we're going to then find A, and we're going to add 4 on. 1, 2, 3, 4. We've already done it actually on the previous one, so therefore we get E again. So it's plus 4, plus 4. Pause the video now, and it's worth you having a go at these questions. Remember, go from the first letter of each pair. Let's see if we just reveal the technique. It should say something very similar. Count between the first letter in the first pair and the first letter in the second pair. Then do the same between the second letter in the first pair and the second letter in the second pair. You've now identified your jump pattern. Apply this pattern to the third pair to find your answer. So let's just quickly write in what the answers are to these. And the first one was W and an X, and that was actually adding 4 as well each time. So L to P, add 4, then S, add 4, gives you W. M to Q, that was also plus 4, and then T plus 4 to give you X. And then we've got T, V, and that's plus 2, plus 2. So plus 2 on the first letter, plus 2 on the second letter. And the last one is P and an R, and what you need to do with that one is actually add 3 each time. Add 3. So we'll just write in here what you need to do each time. This was plus 4, plus 4. I hope those made sense, and I hope you were able to answer those accurately. Let's move on to the next set of questions. These are called make a new word by changing the third pair in the same way as the other pairs. What we need to do here is work out how the word is made from the previous 2 pairs and then apply it to ours. Let's have a look at the example. The example is quite simple. Now we've got snip and nip, and then we've got slit and lit, and then we've got to work out how we make a word from then. What you might have noticed here very quickly is that the last 3 letters are then how we create our second word. So we take the last 3 letters of slit, we make lit. So if we take the last 3 letters of then, of course we make hen. So that one's fairly straightforward. One of the ways that you can actually do these is by writing the number above the letters. So the way I would do this, for example, white, okay, maybe if I write it down here a little bit clearer. So I've got white, and what I can do above, just turn that into an E, I could write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what word does it make? Well, it makes with. And how did I make with? From white, well, the W was the 1, the I was the third letter, the T was the fourth, and the H was the second. So the code I'm looking for is 1342. Now, if I apply the same to mine, so we've got speed, so if I write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I need to make it quite small so it lines up. Let's take the first letter, well that's an S. The third letter is an E. The fourth letter is also an E. And the second letter was a P. So we spell the word seep, like if it seeps out. So the answer is seep. So the number strategy can really help you here to make sure that you choose the right letters. Sometimes there'll be more than one option, but it'll only ever spell a word or one word. So make sure that the word is spelled correctly. Just to let you know, on number 8, it's late. So I hope you use the number strategy here. And then the last one here is real. Oh, make sure my A looks right. Real. There we go. So I hope you were able to answer those questions accurately. Again, hopefully you paused the video and you can easily watch it back if you're a little bit unsure of the technique. And the last questions in this particular test involve you matching up some words with some codes. And we do call them matching codes. So match the number codes to the words. Use this to help you work out the answers to the questions. Write your answers on the line. So what you're given here is you're given 4 words. You can see these are all 3-letter words. And then over here, I'll do it in a slightly different colour, I've got 4 codes. Now, I've got to match up these words with these codes. So what you need to do is make sure that you're looking for letters and maybe even numbers that are in the same position. Let's see what the technique tells us. Look for similarities in the words and the codes. You have two words that begin with the letter B. I think that's quite obvious to see, isn't it? Just going to rub that out, just make it a little bit clearer for you. So try and make my line a little bit straighter. There we go. So we've got these codes are going to match with these words. So first thing that I noticed is that you have two words that begin with the letter B. So you've got box and bat. Now if we look along the numbers, the first number, we've got a 1 and a 1, a 4 and an 8. So I know because the two letters are the same and the two numbers are the same that the 1 stands for a B. So I'm going to actually just write B above. Now I don't know yet whether it's going to be bat or box, so I'm going to need to come back over and double check. The next thing that you might look at is possibly the two O's. So the second letter is the two O's. Where do we see two numbers that are the same? Well, we've got a 2 here and a 2 here. So I know that that's an O and that's an O, because in our other ones we had a P and an A in the middle. Now, box and bat, the difference between those two, you've got an O as the second and an A as the second. So I know that the 9 must stand for an X. So that word must be box. This word must be bat. And I can actually use that to help me a little bit, because if the 4 is an A, that means that this word starts with an A, which of course is ape. And the last thing that I need to do, I've only got one word left. So I come back over here, what was it? Well, I need top. So T is the 8 and the 3 is a P. And we learnt that there from ape. You can then work out the codes for these words. So what's the code for pot? Well, actually, if we write this backwards, we get 3, 2, and an 8. What's the code for boat? So if we think of the B, that was 1. What was the O? It was 2. 3 was A, and T was 8. So the code is 1248. The next thing we need to do is work out what the word will spell with those numbers. So the 8 is the T, the 4 is the A, the 3 is the P, and the 5 is the E. So it spells the word tape. Hope you were able to pair those up all okay. So let's just go and have a little look at the answers just quickly. So if you were wanting to double check them again, then these are the answers. So if I just reveal those, there we go. So hopefully you were able to get those correct. What you can do in your book, of course, is then go to the progress grid and fill in for section 1, test 9, what your score was. In the next part of the lesson, we're now going to have a look at some word codes, so match the codes, make a word from two words, and then letter sequencing again. So let's have a look at the first one, which is called word codes. Now this is another type of code question, and I've actually just taken the example here for you so we can work out what the answer will be. So the first thing we've got is if the code for sing is TJOH, what is the code for long? Now the way we do these is because we're given a word and we've got to turn that into a code, we're going to start with the word. So this one is going to be a word. So I'm going to put W here for word. And then I'm going to go to a code. I'm actually going to put an arrow to make sure that I go in the right direction. So we've got the word sing. And then the code for sing, and I'm going to write that directly underneath so it makes sure that it's all lined up. It's TJOH. So what you can do, if you want to, is actually just create a little table here. Just to divide it all up. Try and keep it as straight as I can. And then we know what each of those letters stands for. Now, we've actually, if we get the word long, we've got to then work out what the code for long is. I'm just going to draw myself a little table here. And we've got to work out what the L stands for, what the O stands for, what the N stands for, and what the G stands for. And the way we do this is we work from the word to the code. So for the S to the T, well, obviously that's forward 1. So we're going to then plus 1 from our L, and we get M. So our first letter will be M. Then we go from I to J, and this again is plus 1, so that makes it easy. O, forward 1, gives me P. N to O, that's also plus 1. I think I know what the pattern is now. N plus 1 gives me the O. And then plus 1 from G, well, we know that already, it's going to be H. So the code that we required was MPOH. You don't have to lay it out like this all the time. What you might want to do to save you a bit of time is if I had sing here, I could just write sing above the code, and that would save me a bit of time. And then I can work from S to T, I to J, N to O, and G to H. That might be one thing that you might like to do. So if you'd like to have a go at these now, you can certainly pause the video and have a go and see how you work these ones out. So this is section 1, test 10. Now, hopefully you've had a chance to work through these and you've used the technique we talked about earlier. So the first one is FBU. That's the code for eat, and you had to go plus 1 from the word to the code. The next one is FSFE, and that was the code for red, and you were plussing 1 from the word to code again. And then the last one for the code for cat was D, B, and a U. And again, each time you were plussing 1. So that made it quite easy, hopefully, to work it out. Well done if you got that right. This is just a reminder of the technique. Count from the first letter in the word to the first letter in the code. Repeat between the second letters, the third letter, etc. You should then know how many jumps you need to make to create your new code. But of course, it is really important that you go the right way. So in all of these questions, we were actually going from the word to the code. Sometimes you can have it where you go from code to word, but not in these examples. Well done if you got all of those right. You can, of course, tick them off if you got them correct. Now we've got another one of these questions again. We did these earlier where we were matching up the words with the codes. So let's quickly do the matching, see if we can do it a little bit quicker this time. So we've got the two T's. What do they stand for? Well, that must be the 2. So I'm going to write T and I'm going to write T there. Then I'm going to have a look and see that I've got a 1 and a 1, so that must stand for the same letter, and the two letters that are the same in the middle of our words are the A. So I'm going to write A there, and I'm going to write A there. So the only word that ends with AT is rat. That means that I can write the R above the 3, because I learnt that from there. So that makes that word far. And then we've only got 2 more left. And because there's only one other word that ends with a T, that's not. I know that that's not. I don't need to work very hard because I now know that this must be axe because it's the only word that I have left. So I've done all the pairing. What's the code for fox? Let's quickly work that one out. So we've got 5. What's the O? It's 7. What's the X? It's 9. So 5, 7, 9. This one for oat, we've got 7. So that's the first letter. The A, of course, is the 1, and the T is the 2. So 7, 1, 2. And then what word does this code spell? 5, 7, 7, 2. Well, 5 is an F. Now, because we've got 2 7s, that means that's the same letter again. So we've got the O, and the 2 we know stood for a T. So the answer is foot. Brilliant if you've managed to get that right. So again, look for similarities and make sure you look for the same numbers as well to help you. Right, we're going to look at the other set of questions that we did see earlier. Remember how we do these. This is laid out slightly differently, but we've got to use these 2 words to make this word in the middle. So what I will do is I'm actually going to number each of those letters. So it's very similar to how I did the other one when they were in pairs. Try and make sure they line up. You can probably do it slightly better than me and make your writing a bit smaller. So where's the E come from? Well, that's 1. Where's the A come from? It's 2. The S is a 5, and then the T, I know it's not very well lined up, it's not the 7, it's actually the 8. So I need my code over here to be 1, 2, 5, and an 8. So I'm just going to number these again very quickly. You can quickly number them, but make sure that they're nicely lined up. Try and make my writing a little bit smaller this time. So where's the 1? That's the H. Where's the 2? That's the A. And then the 5th one was the R, and then the E was the 8th, and that spells the word hair. Let's have a look at your questions, and we'd ask you to have a go at number 7. Do use your number coding as well. So we've got M-O-P-E in the middle here for that one. Then we've got S-W-A-N. And then we've got S-I-L-K in that one, so silk. Well done if you managed to get those right. Again, I hope you are pausing the video at the right stages. And the last ones, and we've done these double letter series already, just to let you know, the first one is a repeating +0 +1 +0 +1. So we end up getting AM again, because it's just a repetition. YK, YK, ZL, ZL, AM, we're just going to repeat it. And then we've got X, and we've got Z for that double letter series, and that was -1, -1. And then JR. This was a slightly bigger jump, but hopefully you were able to work it out. It was +5 on the first letter, and then it was -5 on the second. So you have to be really accurate on your alphabet. Well done. Now, these are the answers, just in case you do want to just check them down through. So you can see all the answers there. So we've gone through pretty much all of those different styles of questions. Now, just for a bit of an extension, if you do want to have a go at some more, you can have a go on page 14 and page 15. Set yourselves a bit of a target, maybe 10 minutes, and see whether you can get through all of those questions, those 2 tests. And if you do manage to do them, and you also manage to mark them, you can then go to your progress grid and you can put your score in and see how you're getting on. And you'll start to fill up that progress grid for section 1. As you can see, we've done most of the tests now. Just a last little reminder, you need to complete week 3's homework. There will be a video that goes through all of the different tasks for you, and you can obviously mark those at home. And we'd also ask you, please, to focus on week 3's words. Make sure you learn them, not only how to spell them, but the meanings. Your hard word, or your more challenging word out of all of those, is onerous. And I hope you don't find this work onerous. Okay, thank you very much for watching this pre-recorded video for Year 4, and we look forward to seeing you in our live sessions. See you later. Bye.